Wanted to expand a little bit. I'm stuck in traffic right now, so I might as well do something productive. Wanted just to expand a little bit on what I was talking about regarding pastors and pay. The devotion is actually going to go into a little bit more of this, I think tomorrow and a couple more days. But the money is actually, man, it's rough in the pastoral realm. And I'm saying this because just out of experience and knowing what pastors go through with fear, especially like you got to think about this. Okay, so there's some individuals who come into pastoral ministry who have no training at all. I mean, they literally have no background in anything else other than ministry, and they don't have like a technical field, like a real like side hustle. Okay, I'll call it that just to kind of keep it, PC. But there's no real side hustle. There's no real skill there other than ministry. And the unfortunate thing is that because pastors don't have another field, they're almost stuck in having to be in Christian ministry without a backup. And I've seen where the men and women who are in ministry, they obviously rely on your income, but it was like, if you didn't do ministry, you have no other option. There's nothing else out there for you. So you can't be a part of two different churches. You can't be out there, trying to, serve, at one church and another. You just can't do it. You have to actually be aligned to the one church, and then you rely on that income. Well, what that does is it creates a pressure point for whoever that pastor is. They have to figure out how they're going to make the ends meet. They got to figure out what in the world they're going to do if something goes sideways. And then there's a fear factor there as well. And you have to have a little bit of empathy for it and sympathy for it, because these people who know that they've been let me get into this too. There's people out there who know that they've been called by God to be a pastor. They really do exist, and they want to do their best for their congregations. But then there's others out there who actually figure that this is just an easy way of making money. And this is terrible for me to say, but it's true, okay? It's an easy way of making money, especially if you're the lead pastor and you can get people who come to church, who put their tithe in and stuff, and all you got to do is just make sure you show up, do a good preach and whatever, run a half decent ministry, and people actually will give to it. And sometimes people give millions of dollars to it, not knowing that they're given to just a person in the ego. But that happens, honestly, I'm just being real with you, that does happen. And the squeeze on the individuals who have been called into ministry and solely do ministry, these individuals understand like what it actually could mean to preach the truth and the real price that they would pay if they offended individuals within their congregation. So there's certain things that you need to know about, like Christian ethics as well. Christian ethics include not knowing who in your congregation are the givers, like how much it is that they give and the like. Because then, and I'm kind of doing like a side note here because I want to get into something else here to make sure that you understand the point. When pastors know who gives, the individual becomes a dollar sign. So I, as a pastor, should never know who within the church actually gives the most or who gives at all. And really, you should not know that. And if you do know that, you should either be stepping down from your pastoral role at that church, or you should be giving over your responsibility to somebody else regarding the finances of the church. And the reason being is the ethics run in, and people start to cater to individuals who actually are the givers. And the moment the big givers, and the moment that's known, you no longer have a church. You have it's a business. Okay, so just know that plays into it, because there actually are pastors out there who want to know who gives the most. They want to know who is the big donors and stuff, and they actually literally do cater to those people, despite what their own convictions might be, despite what their spirituality might be. It's actually a power thing. It's really sad, and it happens within the church. You need to know that. Well, the other part about this too is that by a pastor knowing who the big givers are, the agenda changes, and no longer is it about the gospel. Okay, it's a part of now this is from the pastor to the individual. It's how much can I get out of that individual, how much can I get out of them, and it really becomes that, how much can I get out of this person if I have this crazy idea, but it needs like a certain amount of money, and I only know a couple people with that amount of money. I wonder how much I can actually get out of them to actually give to this thing. And there's actually pursuit in that by pastors to get that type of funding. And so you have a loss of the spirituality there, because it all becomes a money game. So now let me get to the other point about this, about the money game in the pastoral role. The other piece of this that I wanted to, like I said, I wanted to expand on is that as pastors, as they try to do their best to stay faithful, what that church can actually do, that church can actually become a real hindrance to that individual in their own pastoral role. It can be almost like a travesty to see what congregations really will do to a person that, and to an individual who they know is trying to actually, well, you know what, they may not even know it, but to a person that's actually trying to be faithful to their calling of God, but that congregation may not like that person for whatever reason and turn on them. And this is where it's turning down the spigot. If you're in plumbing or you know anything about water, you have a water flow that comes from the street, 2 inch or 1 inch, whatever. I think it's 2 inches, and that 2 inch has a max flow, and that's why your house has water. And so when that valve is kind of turned a little bit, it's turned a little bit off, your flow, it starts to be hindered. And what ends up happening is that you start realizing that you're getting less water. Well, when you have that type of the spigot get turned down within your church, you have less funds coming into your church, and you have less ability actually to take care of yourself and take care of your family. And you have to understand like what the draw is here regarding the money. This type of one, it's a spiritual abuse by a congregation, but it can be done by the pastor to the congregation as well too. This spiritual abuse, either way it goes, is all about the funds and all about the money and all about what a person can do and get and receive with this money. And the sad part about it is when there is no plan B, when there is no other option other than to rely on sinful people to really take care of you and your family, you're left up short, okay? And I have always said I am a big supporter of individuals who actually have work outside of the pastoral ministry. That because first off, it hones your schedule so that you're not, you're not lax. I need to make sure I'm not going to forget this point that I want to make. It's in the back of my head. That they're not lax, but also that you stay focused on what the goal actually is for the gospel. So you're focused on the gospel. You take care of business at some other side hustle, whatever it might be, and you can determine that. But you make sure you take care of your bills, and that way you're not worried about what somebody does or doesn't do if they do or don't show up to actually give per month. You're just not worried about it. Okay. Well, the other piece of this is that I kind of touched lightly in the last video, the part one. Well, the last piece of this is that there really are pastors out there who do not want to work, and you see this in the chaplain corps. I've got friends who've served in all types of areas in the military, and they know the chaplains that are legit. I know chaplains who are legit, and I know chaplains who are not legit. Chaplains who, they're basically doing the same thing as either the folks who they're serving, and they're not really setting themselves apart. And it's not that you set yourself apart to be above anybody, but you set yourself apart because at some period of time, these men and women who you're serving, they are going to need somebody that stands outside of them to really draw them into a close relationship with Christ Jesus. That's actually what you do as a chaplain. And I know when I was going for my role within the Navy, I didn't make it, okay, because of my drug past and stuff with my tattoos, and I just wasn't really ready to go through Navy legal for them to be diving into my life that way. So it just didn't work out. But at some point in time, that there are people in there that are just there to get a paycheck, that are just there to make the easy ends. And it's sad to say, but there are people like that who really do take advantage of the system. And there's folks like that who and the only way that you can actually really discern these people is by being around them and by asking questions of other individuals and by asking real questions like, oh, is this person really, do they really like serve the community, or are they serving themselves? And you can kind of see like the narcissism, you can kind of see the way that they interact with people. If it's a certain group of people, whatever, if they've got their own little cliques and stuff like that, then those folks, they're just there for the show, okay? They're just being real, they're just there for the show. They're not really pastors, they're just freaking showmen. They're showwomen, whatever. And so that's what that can look like. And but then also too, what they'll end up doing is they'll end up showing their hand when real crisis happens. If they're really not about the people that they need to take care of, they're about themselves. So it's a hard thing, and to discern who the people are who are really being led by spiritually, it's a tough job. And this is why the churches have been so infiltrated by people who really don't care about folks. They're either there for the easy money, they're there for the cush job, because they're in a position of power, they're over people. There are people that come into pastoral ministry who literally just go there because they want to have control over people. It's a sad, I'm being real with you, it's a sad freaking fact. It's a truth. Sin runs deep in everybody, okay? And this is the thing. And this is, Chuck Swindoll said one time in one of his sermons, he said that, men and pastors have three real temptations to watch out for. It's gold, glory, and girls, okay? The three G's. The gold is the money, because if you don't know this, being a pastor, you get into the right churches, you're talking about making millions of dollars, and it being, and you just like doing it, right? Because it's a friend of mine who basically, I mean, he's hilarious. He always talks about, man, what it looks like behind the veil, and that I won't get into it, but it's true. You can make millions of dollars off of the church, and it's a sad state of affairs. But individuals who are doing that, there will be a reckoning in the end. Okay, so that's the gold, and the glory is receiving praise, to be in front of people, to be on a stage, to hold, to be held in high esteem by those, to be called certain names, like pastor or minister or reverend or whatever. People actually live for that stuff. They want the title. And then the girls, and I'm telling you, like the girls is the girls is the weirdest thing ever. There are people who chase pastors, okay, because they want the prestige for themselves to be a pastor's wife, or they want the prestige of being the individual who takes down a pastor. That actually is a big thing too. So pastors gotta like watch out for all different three types of things. And I knew what my weakness was just because of my own past. So I had to freaking watch out for that. Even when I was leading the singles ministry, I had to freaking watch out. And it's just, stuff can go sideways pretty quickly and stuff. So just understand that there's a lot of things within the pastoral role that you don't know about. I mean, I'm just telling you, kind of, I don't know if I'm giving out freaking the cookies and the secrets, but it's just like there's stuff back there that you just don't know. And there's things there that you have to actually watch out for as a pastor. But in this role, the expansion on this is to go back into the money. The money can be a terrible driver, but it's also a necessary driver. So how does that work out? What's the tension in there? Like I said before, it's you get a second job. Okay, if you're a person who's completely dependent on your church, and you do a lot of the smaller churches, have a second job, man. You'll basically have some time to get some things done. But if you're an individual who's working at one of the bigger churches, just understand that you might be getting underpaid depending upon what you're being asked to do, because you might be putting in hella work and then realizing that you're stuck. You're paid just enough, but you're not paid just enough, okay? You're paid just enough to keep you there, but you're not paid just enough to make everything in and work out. So it can be pretty difficult. So anyway, I just want to make sure that you understand that, and what I want to talk about with you this morning. This is the part 2 of that original video from the devotion for today. And I know that you are hopefully taking notes, because when you see pastors up in the pulpit, the only way you can really discern who they are is via prayer and knowing. You got weird things going on, your spider sense is going up. Just trust God in it, ask some questions, and you'll be straight. Take care.